Hello and welcome to episode 54 of the Ohio Huntsman Podcast. And on today's episode, it's just Jacob, Jeff, and I, no guest, but we talk about the recent public lands cleanup event that we went to, and just sort of our experience, what you can expect if you decide to participate in one of these, and I encourage you to, if you have the chance. September is Public Lands Month, so BHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, is going to be doing more of these events throughout the month of September. So if there's one in your area, I think their plan is to have one of these in all of the wildlife districts in Ohio. So if you have the chance, if there's one near you, or you're not working or something, I encourage you to participate in one of these. It was a really good experience. We enjoyed it. And so we basically talk about our experience, what happened, like I said, what you can expect, and sort of tell the story of that. So Jacob wasn't there. He was actually on vacation when this event happened, so he's kind of our sounding board, I guess, in this one, asking us questions about how things went. Jeff and I were there, and his wife, Amber, was there. And so that's what this episode's about. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Before we get into the episode, though, I want to stop and talk about our sponsor, Mastin's Deer Sense. So, at the time I'm recording this, we are 34 days away from opening day of bow season. So, we are getting close. Hopefully you're doing, final tuning on your system, your bow, your setup. You've got stands hung, or you're getting that stuff finished up. And figuring out your strategy for opening day and into that first part of season, which can be a good time for deer scents to work and sort of use those to your advantage. So Mastin's has a lot of different scents. The prices are really good on these. It's a high quality scent. Like they collect their scents on all stainless steel. A lot of other scent companies, they're just collecting that off of concrete, and so you can get a lot of impurities and things in that. So they collect their samples from stainless steel. So it's a high quality product. It works well, and I'm really excited to use. They've got a scent they call Smell Like a Deer, which I think is going to be a good one for those early season hunts. So I'm really interested in using that, and they've got a lot of interesting I guess what I would call not just your standard liquid scents. They've got a double scent stack, so you can sort of layer scents. You can put a deer scented candle in this thing, and then you can put a liquid scent in the tray above it, so the candle heats that tray, makes that scent carry farther because it's heated now. It's more, like a body temperature type scent. And so just a lot of different things that I've not tried in the past, I've not seen in the past, and so I'm really looking forward to playing around with some of that stuff. So if any of that sounds interesting to you and you want to check that out, there'll be a link in the show notes for that, or you can go to mastinsdeersense.com. And now, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Ohio Huntsman Podcast, where three brothers, Jason, Jacob, and Jeff, discuss all things hunting in Ohio. Our goal is to be your source for accurate and reliable hunting news and conservation issues in the great state of Ohio, as well as some fun and interesting conversations along the way. This is the Ohio Huntsman Podcast.
Are you listening?
All right, on today's episode, we're going to talk about our recent public lands cleanup event that we went to. So we didn't host it. It was hosted by BHA, but if you guys followed our Instagram stories, you saw a lot of what happened and what we were getting into. If you're not following our Instagram stories, you should be. Post a lot of fun things like this on there, and it's a good way to keep up to date with what's going on. So Jacob is actually joining us from out of state. He's on vacation, so he's committed to bringing you guys an episode and being on it. So he's actually trying not to suffocate in a hot car while recording this. So that's dedication. But so Jacob actually wasn't able to go to the event because he was on vacation. So he's going to kind of be our question asker, if you will, if we glaze over anything that he thinks people might have questions on or be interested in. And so I just thought it would be a cool sort of we could do a summary or a recap on how the event went. If anybody's interested in participating in something like this, what you could expect when you show up to something like this. And yeah, I guess that was kind of my thoughts. You guys have any other thoughts, I guess, before we get started?
No, I don't have any other thoughts.
I've never done one, and I didn't get to do this one, so I'll be a good source of questions and kind of how it all plays out and that kind of stuff. So
okay, so this event, like I said, we didn't host this event. We just participated in the event. It was actually hosted. I think the main host was the Ohio chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, or BHA. You guys have heard us talk about BHA. They worked sort of in partnership with the Division of Wildlife, and then there was also, it was actually pretty cool. There was also a local like raptor rehabilitation center that was I guess, let me back. I'm not doing a good job explaining this. So BHA, my understanding was BHA reached out to the Division of Wildlife and said, hey, we'd like to do a cleanup event in what was that, District 3? Jeff, do you know?
I think it's District 3. I'm not positive on that.
And they plan to do cleanup events in all of the wildlife districts in the state. So, anywho, they said, we'd like to do a cleanup event. Do you have something in mind? And right around that same time, I guess this raptor rehabilitation center had approached the Division of Wildlife and said, hey, we got a lot of birds coming in that are getting tangled up in fishing line. Is there something we can do to help alleviate that? So this cleanup event was at the Spencer Lake Wildlife area. If anybody is in, like I said, I think it's District 3. You're probably familiar with Spencer Lake Wildlife area. There's woods there that you can hunt in the fall. There's a lake, Spencer Lake, that you can fish and do some waterfowl hunting. And so it's a great public resource in the area. A lot of people use it, which with people comes evidence of people, aka trash and things like that. So the other cool thing they have there is they've got a public archery range, both I guess what I call like a known distance sort of standard archery range, targets at different known distances, just in a mode field, if you will. And then they've got a walking archery course where you walk this path and you come up to a target or a set of targets that are at some unknown distance, and they're a little bit of you're shooting across a ravine or some sort of obstacle. Maybe there's and I don't know that this one, I saw one where there was like a tree down across the shooting area, and I don't know that was intentional. I think maybe a tree just fell and it got left there. But just to add another element of challenge, I guess, to it. So anywho, Division of Wildlife said, funny you should mention wanting to do a cleanup event. We were just approached by this raptor center about trying to get rid of the fishing line out at Spencer Lake because they're having birds getting tangled up in it. And so BHA put the word out. We also tried to help get the word out, and basically a bunch of people showed up there at 9:30 or something to participate in this cleanup event. And it was not only BHA people, but there was also people from this raptor. I guess Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a raptor rehabilitation center. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, it was a local raptor rehabilitation center.
Okay, so it was actually a really cool opportunity to interact with like the non-hunting public, if you will, right? They're non-consumptive users, I think is the way BHA described them, meaning they're not, hunting is a consumptive use, right? You're going onto this public land, this public resource, and you're taking something off of it. You're taking a deer, you're taking squirrels, rabbits, pheasants, whatever, waterfowl, into your own possession through the game check process. That public resource has now become your individual resource after you've put the appropriate tag or whatnot on it. The Raptor Center, they are rehabilitating birds that have been injured and watching birds, right? Watching them use the landscape, hunt for fish in Spencer Lake, that sort of thing. So it was kind of a cool melding, if you will, of those two different user groups, which you don't see a ton of. So that was cool to start. I think the impression I got is they were surprised by the number of people that were there. This was sort of one of the first times they had done something like this, and they were kind of shocked by the number of people that were there. And so everybody sort of...
And that was BHA? That was BHA that was surprised, or this Raptor Rehab Center?
BHA was a little surprised, but they had an RSVP thing on their website where they were asking people to RSVP, so they had some idea of how many were coming. And the one guy said that typically they get like 50% of the people that RSVP actually come is sort of that's typically what they see. And so I think they said they had 44 people RSVP for this. And I mean, we had every bit of 20 people standing there in the parking lot in the morning. So, and it was older folks all the way down to, I mean, there was a good handful of kids there. People brought their kids to participate in this. So it was all age ranges and all different user demographics, if you will.
Yeah, and it was really exciting to see the kids there because they were the ones that were the most jazzed up about this experience. I mean,
yeah,
they were super excited about being there, helping out, cleaning up. There was a little girl there who her dad flat out said, like, she's the only reason we're here. She wanted to come. I'm just tagging along with her.
Oh, I didn't hear that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a wide range of people. We're all sort of milling around in the parking lot, and then start time rolls around, and the Division of Wildlife personnel that were there sort of gave us the rundown on, here's what we're looking to do. We want to clean up the fishing line. There's not a ton of trash. People are generally pretty good about picking up after themselves here, but anything you see that you want to pick up, feel free. And so this was a question I had going into it. I was like, how much were volunteers for this, but how much are they expecting us to bring? Like, are they going to provide gloves and trash bags, or should I have brought trash bags? Or, I rushed out. I was planning to bring gloves that morning, and I rushed out of the house and forgot gloves. And so thankfully they provided all of that stuff. So they had, big construction trash bags. They had gloves, both, the blue nitrile gloves and just, how do you call them? Like, they're the cotton gloves that have been dipped in like that grippy
plasticky, whatever.
Yeah. So they had those. They had the little trash picker things, where you squeeze the handle and the pinchers on the end, right? They had, if you were watching the stories, you saw us fishing bottles and stuff out of the lake with those. What else did they had buckets, which the buckets come into play later in the story. But yeah, so everybody, they said, grab your stuff. There was a waiver requirement, which I didn't see the waiver. Apparently, if you were there as a BHA member, they had an overarching waiver for BHA people, and then they had a waiver for the group of people that were there for the Raptor Rehabilitation Center. But if you were there as an individual, they had a separate waiver that you needed to sign. I didn't see what was on it, but I'm assuming, you're a volunteer. If you get hurt doing this, it's not our fault, I guess. I don't know. But so there was
So if you're not, in that case, if you were not a BHA member, you wouldn't be covered by the BHA waiver.
right. They were asking if you weren't there with one of those two groups, they were asking that you signed, put your hand up or whatever, and we'll get you signed into or give you a waiver to sign that would cover you outside of the general BHA waiver. And basically, they had maps of the wildlife area for people that hadn't been there before. You could kind of get a lay of the land, and they basically set everybody out to looking for trash. And like I said, they were kind of the Division of Wildlife was kind of surprised by the number of people that were there. And so as we all sort of set out, I was like, well, there's a lot of people here. They didn't expect that, so it was just a sort of a trial. Let's see how many people come out. And if we get people come out, we'll have them pick up trash. Well, a lot of people came out. And so it was kind of a bummer, at least initially, that they didn't have like bigger projects like, hey, we need some trails cleared. Can somebody run a chainsaw or that sort of thing? It was just pick up trash. And so,
Right.
as everybody sort of set out in different directions, I kind of figured, well, we'll pick up some trash. We'll get the place cleaned up a little bit, and we'll head on our way, which is what it sort of started out as. Jeff's wife Amber and I, we sort of went out as a group and picked up cans, bottles, the plastic lids for worm containers. You buy a styrofoam cup of worms, has a plastic lid. What other kind of stuff?
Found a fair bit of fishing line.
Yeah.
Lots of cigarette butts, like lots and lots of cigarette butts.
Yeah. And
Random clothing items, socks.
I didn't find any of that stuff.
We found like some socks and like a shoe.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tore up T-shirt.
Okay.
Murder scene kind of stuff.
So yeah, we were by no means filling these trash bags. I mean, we had a fair bit of trash,
Yeah, and you could get as adventurous as you wanted. They said, you can stay on the trails, or you can go trailblazing through the woods, and there's some areas where people have fished along the lake, in the woods and left their trash. So you could get as adventurous as you wanted.
Right. This place has the way it sort of lays out is it's got a causeway that sort of splits the lake that you can walk across. There's a concrete path, and then coming off the concrete path are mowed paths that sort of follow the lake edge, if you will. And so we sort of fanned out into those paths, and there's a whole other boundaries of the lake that we didn't get into because, like Jeff said, you were kind of be bushwhacking through the woods and stuff, and I'm sure there were some people that set off that way, and we just didn't do that, But so we got any questions so far? Have I skipped anything?
I guess not. So they didn't assign people areas. They kind of just said, this is the
right. Yeah.
property. Let's go find trash.
Yes.
Okay.
They, because again, they didn't really know how many people were going to show up. Right. So they didn't want to, I got the feeling that like, they didn't want to spend a bunch of time figuring like, okay, we'll have a group here. We'll have a group here. We'll have, and like have 10 different zones picked out, and then like 3 people show up, and well, that all was wasted time, sort of thing. They just really didn't know what to expect. So they basically said,
They also asked us if you found anything, an area that you cleaned up and you couldn't, haul the trash back out of the woods, to just drop a pin, mark your location, and they would, then just let them know and they'll come back for it.
Right.
So that was helpful.
Yeah. For
the people that were bushwhacking, at least.
Right, yeah. And so everybody sort of fanned out, and like Jeff said, we sort of were leapfrogging the one group with quite a few kids, and it was really cool. They were, like Jeff said, they were super excited, and like they'd find something and like, oh my gosh, why would somebody leave a bottle out here? Like kids that they just blurt out whatever's in their head, sort of thing. And so it was kind of cool to hear them.
And one of the kids, kind of like cut me off and got trash in front of me. And, his dad kind of yelled at him like, oh, watch where you're going. You just cut that guy off. And, it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, how dare your kid, beat me to pick up trash,
right.
Like cut me off, to pick up trash.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah. I mean, it was they were there. Kids find a way to have fun at anything, right? And so they were excited, like, oh, I found one, and it was just cool to see their excitement around all of it. And so, like Jeff said, finding random stuff, fishing line. We got down to the other end of the causeway. There's another parking area down there, and as parking areas have a tendency to do, there was a fair bit of trash scattered around there and, in the water's edge there. And I think that group of kids, they got into a pretty big pile where either the wind must blow everything, or I never went over there and looked, but I kept hearing them say, oh my God, I found another, and they were all excited, and they were hanging out just off the parking area, kind of in the woods there for a while.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty popular fishing spot over there, just out, just off the parking lot. So you don't see the trash from the parking lot, but it's pretty common for people to go over there and then leave their trash when they're done.
Oh, okay. So the road then, or the drive, I guess, continues on back out to a different road from the parking area that we were in. And so we were kind of walking down that road and kind of figuring, well, I don't know, should we start bushwhacking through the woods here, because we're kind of running out of ground to cover. And we got to the archery area. There was really nothing we found one fletching, and over in the woods next to the parking area for the archery area, I found an old shopping bag, that had been blown up under there, but really nothing in the archery area. And I had never been to the walking course. I knew there was a walking course there, but I had never been to it. And I said, well, let's wander around and see if we can find this walking course. And
by walking course, it's like a walking archery course.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the thing I was kind of describing in the beginning. So they've got a mowed trail. You walk this trail and you'll come up to a station where it's got a number, station 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way around this thing. And it's the target is at some unknown distance. These are just hanging bag targets. They're not 3D targets. And whereas what I'll call the main archery area, there's poles there with these are 20-yard targets, these are 30-yard targets, these are 40, and you can kind of go down the line. They're known distances, that sort of thing. So we fanned out. Jeff and Amber went one way, I went another way. Fanned out in this, it's brushy area, but like I said, with paths mowed through it for this walking archery course. And Jeff, did you guys find anything? Well, once we got back into the woods and stuff, the targets that were in the woods, right? You were finding stuff.
Yeah, once I got back into the woods, there was a lot of cans that were, set up on top of like the archery target frames that it looked like people had shot with shotguns, and a lot of beer bottles back there where it looked like people had went back there and with a 12 pack and threw the bottles around. And then
shotgun shells.
Yeah, I found one tree that had, I don't know, probably 12 spent shotgun shells underneath of it. So I'm thinking it was someone's squirrel hunting tree. He kind of gave up his spot now.
Yeah, you
I'm going back.
Yeah.
So had he picked up his shells, I wouldn't have known that was a good spot, but now I do know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we found some more trash back there.
Yeah. I want to pause here for a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Monster Whitetail Grub. So Monster Whitetail Grub is a high-quality deer feed company. They're an Ohio company, so you're supporting an Ohio company by buying from Monster Whitetail Grub. And they've got a handful of different products. They've got, all of it is sort of a long-range attractant. So they've got a pure mineral. It's a granulated mineral. They've got a high-protein feed is sort of how they call it. That's sort of their signature product. That's actually got mineral mixed in. And they've got their flavored corn. So that flavoring, that's also in their signature feed, their high protein feed. That makes it sort of a long range attractant, attract deer from a long way away. And we're getting ready to start season. So hopefully you've got a strategy if that includes feed, or if you just want to use that for nutrition, or whatever your situation is. I encourage you to check out Monster Whitetail Grub. There'll be a link in the show notes, and check them out and get yourself some feed. And with that, let's get back to the episode. The initial area, when we first got in there, I was walking through and I was like, wow, there's really nothing back here. But yeah, I now that I was thinking about it, once we got into the more wooded targets, there was definitely some, like you said, trash back there. And there was this sort of leads us to the big find. There was one station it's a double station. So from one shooting location, you kind of off to your left, there's a target that, it kind of is up on top of the ridge with you. And then off to your right, you're kind of shooting over a ravine at a target across the way, on the opposite hillside. And there's a little wood plank bridge that goes across there. And I thought, well, walk down here a little bit, and I was standing on the bridge, and I looked down and I saw some old clay pipe, and I thought, well, I don't know, is it worth me shucking this? It's not natural, right? But it's clay pipe. It's gonna, I don't know. I wasn't too concerned about clay pipe. We were way far away from the truck where we were supposed to bring all this stuff back to, but I did see a small piece of broken glass down there, and I thought, well, I'll hop off this bridge down there and get this piece of broken glass. And I see another piece of broken glass, and then a shotgun shell, and then I kind of looked up, and it was like, oh, I was like, it was weird, but I basically walked into the middle of this old dump site. So there's just tons and tons of glass in there, most of it broken. And there was some old barbed wire and some metal things. I found an old leaf spring I'm assuming from a pickup or some old car or something. I suspect there used to be other things there, but based on, this glass wasn't all laying on top. It was kind of, some of it was down in the dirt. You were kind of, what looked like a small piece of glass when you picked it up was actually a big piece of glass that was buried, or, half a glass jar or that sort of thing. So this stuff had been there for a while. I suspect there was probably other trash there at some point, but the glass and, the little bit of metal that we found in there was all that was really left. And so this was one of those, as Jeff mentioned, there was no way that him and I with an Amber with, plastic trash bags were going to pick up all this glass. It was just way too much. And so I was figuring, well, I'm just going to drop a pin and let him know it's back here. But then I got to thinking, well, there's a ton of people here, right? And we sort of, as I said, we sort of set out figuring, oh, we're going to find a little bit of trash and everybody's going to go on their way. And I was like, with all these people here, if we can get them all to this spot, we can get this cleaned up while we're here.
Right.
And so I actually had, through, scheduling people from the Division of Wildlife to be on the podcast, I had the one woman's phone number. And so I gave her a call and said, hey, we found a bunch of glass over here. It's way too much for us to get. If you run into anybody, send them over here. With all these people here, I think we can get it cleaned up. And so, I don't know, 10 minutes go by or whatever. I had kind of caught back up with Jeff and Amber, and we were, because like I said, at that point, I don't know, I guess I'm going to go see if I can find something else because I just can't get all this glass. She called back and said, oh yeah, I just ran into some guys. And she said, that they were just down there at the archery range and they didn't see any of it. And I said, well, I'm in the walking archery range. She said, oh, they were in the other part. So I'll send them down and, hopefully you guys can get it cleaned up. So I think it was 3 or 4 people showed up. Do you remember, Jeff?
Yeah, it was 3 or 4 people with
a guy and his wife, another guy, and there might have been one other guy. I don't remember exactly, but 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
And
they had a couple of buckets.
Yeah, I think they had one bucket, and then everybody else had trash bags. And when they came over the hillside, they were like, oh, this is not at all what we expected. I thought, there was going to be a few broken bottles, and this is like a major dump site. And so we called them back and said, hey, this is way more glass than I think you realize. Like, can you maybe bring that truck down here? And so they said, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And before we knew it, they had brought the truck down, and there was a bunch of people, and we're all sort of hunkered down picking up all this glass. And we were there for a good while. And there was, I don't know, at one point there was probably 8 to 10 people there picking up glass, you figure, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say, probably 8 to 10 adults, plus there was some kids.
That's a good point. Yeah, the kids were there.
Helping out and keeping us entertained.
Yeah.
You know, because their excitement to just be outside was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. And so that, it was cool to get that cleaned up. But the other sort of unexpected thing that was kind of cool was, especially in this instance where everybody sort of convened on this one spot and we're all sort of standing there, sitting there working, is just now we're all kind of shooting the bull, right? Like, and so it was just cool to hear other guys' stories that, oh, they've hunted this area, or, oh, they hunt down in this part of the state. And it was just, interesting, I guess, to be able to listen to some of the stories. The one, and I'm not going to give the super secret tip away, but another perk that came out of this is he wasn't a game warden. I guess he's maybe the Division of Wildlife employee that's responsible for Spencer.
Yeah, he was the site manager, site maintenance manager, whatever.
But yeah, he gave us some hot tips on, if you want to come out here and shoot a deer, here's when you got to be here, and here's where you got to set up. And so that's
cool.
Yeah.
That's hot information at Spencer, because that place gets overrun pretty quick.
Yeah, well, and it was a hunch, because I was talking to Jeff about it, right? And Jeff said, I had a hunch that might work, and now, now that guy confirmed it, it's like, we need to try that. But so that's another, like, if you're thinking about doing one of these things, right, you get to kind of rub elbows. Yeah. You get to kind of, one, with just the other people that are there, and two, there's going to be, at least in a scenario like this, right, there was Division of Wildlife employees there, and the one guy, like I said, he's got very intimate knowledge of the area, the wildlife area, where he sees deer, where he doesn't see deer, how the pressure is. Some of the other guys were asking him, because like I said, it's a lake, right? Spencer Lake. They allow waterfowl hunting, and he's like, yeah, it gets pretty hammered. I forget exactly what he said about times of the year and whatnot, but basically
he said that sometimes of the year it sounds and looks like a bad Civil War reenactment. Is what he said.
Yes. But so you can get that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Not behind the scenes knowledge, but like
insider information.
Yes, like that insider info from a guy that has very intimate knowledge of the area and the hunting pressure, and what kind of game he sees there and what kind of stuff you're not going to find there, and so that was sort of an unexpected perk of doing this. Jeff, you got anything to add that I've missed?
Oh, let me think here. There was a lot of really useful information, a lot of really unexpected benefits. Well, I know Amber, my wife, was very happy to see that there was other outdoors women out there. And, she got to share stories with them about basically what it's like to be a woman in the outdoors, so she really enjoyed that.
I heard her saying the one girl that was there told her, I think she told her, this young girl told Amber, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I can't like boy stuff. Meaning hunting and fishing and that kind of stuff. And
yeah, one of the little girls, yeah.
Yeah, which that was, with having a daughter, that was special to me. It's like I hope my little girl likes boy stuff, quote unquote boy stuff. So
yeah, another good perk was the fact that you can be kind of doing something good, community service, helping the outdoors, and scout. I was kind of scouting to see like, oh, there's deer track here, and there's an oak tree here and a walnut tree here, and kind of seeing if maybe places the squirrel hunt, or try to sneak in there and see if I can get a deer or whatever.
Yeah. And then so we got everything cleaned up basically as good as we could get it with all that glass and everything, got it loaded on the trailer, and they were going to take it away and dispose of it all. And then and I don't know if they're going to do this all the time, or I don't want everybody to expect this, but they then one of the local campgrounds sort of hosted a cookout for everybody that participated in the event. So everybody went over to this campground. They had the grill fired up, cooking hot dogs and burgers, and you could go over there and they had drinks and, like I said, hot dogs, burgers, potato salad, and that was all included. I mean, we didn't pay anything to do this, right? It was just included. Sort of a good faith, like, hey, thanks for cleaning up the local wildlife area. Come have a hot dog, and a burger.
Yeah, and I'll shout them out by name because they were very gracious hosts, and they didn't have to do that. It was the Homerville KOA, and they were very gracious hosts. They were very good people, and it was a nice campground. I was surprised at how nice it was. Yeah,
and so they had cornhole set up when we got there, and the pavilion that we were in was real close to, I don't know if they have multiple fishing lakes, but one of their fishing lakes. And so the kids that were there, headed down to the lake and were down there fishing. They had I think if you were there with the cleanup event, because they had a swimming pond, it's a separate swimming pond. I think you could have gone over and swam if you wanted to. So
yeah, they told us that the whole campground was open to us. We could do whatever we wanted. Go hike, go swim. The whole area was open.
Yeah, and so some of I didn't pay a ton of attention, but some of the people from the Medina Raptor Society did come and hang out at that event along with everybody from BHA. So it was, kind of sit down and have a meal with these people that you might not normally interact or engage with. So all in all, I really enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
Yeah, and it was definitely a very good experience, to kind of community outreach thing for the non-hunting public, because the BHA, the people that were there for BHA probably outnumbered the Raptor Center people, 3 or 4 to 1.
Yeah.
And it was kind of their mission, something they wanted to accomplish, the Raptor Center.
Yeah.
So, we were kind of volunteering our time to help them. And I think they were very grateful. And, it was just really good outreach to kind of bridge that gap between, hunters and other wildlife users.
Yeah, I think so too. Because like you said, they reached out to the Division of Wildlife with this problem, and a group of hunters and fishers showed up to quote unquote fix it, right? And so it was cool. Like you said, I think it was a good opportunity to engage with those people and show them that we're not all a bunch of bloodthirsty savages, and we're good people too. So I think that pretty much sums up the event. Like I said, we went to the cookout afterwards and had some burgers and dogs, and
and there was
and showered.
yeah, and there was something for all skill and ability levels there. If all you could do was walk around the parking lot and pick up trash, then that was fine and that was great. For people that wanted to get more adventurous and go hike through the woods, they could do that as well.
Right.
So there was something for everyone, from the most fit person to the least fit and the oldest to the youngest.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess, Jake, if you don't have any other questions, I guess I would just sort of conclude with, if you've thought about participating in something like this, or you see some of these, which we'll try to post about them when we see them come up. But if you see some of these BHA events, these cleanup events come up, and they're in your area, or you feel like making a trip somewhere for the day, I would encourage you to participate if you're at all able. Like I said, they're a good opportunity for networking with other people. They're a good way to give back and support public lands, and especially in this instance, I'm not going to say that they're all going to be this way, but in this instance, it was a good opportunity to show hunters in a positive light to a non-hunting group of people. And I don't know, I just had fun. I enjoyed it, and we'll definitely do another one if schedules and the area permit. So anything else we should touch on before we shut it off?
Just to, I guess, belabor the point or drive it home. So you don't need to have any prior knowledge, preparation. Everything is provided for you. You just show up in clothes that are appropriate to walk through the woods. And everything else was provided. You didn't have to do anything else. It was all provided for you, free of charge. So there's no barriers there.
Right. You didn't have to be a member of BHA. It was just BHA that sort of organized the thing. You don't have to be a member. You didn't have to bring anything. They had, like I said, they had all the trash bags, all the little trash pickers, gloves, buckets. Because, like I guess I never touched back on it, but we ended up basically needing all those buckets down there to pick up glass. And it was 5-gallon bucket after 5-gallon bucket. We were hauling back up the hill, up to the trailer to get that glass out of there. And so they had all of that stuff. And then when we were done, we put it on the trailer, and the the Spencer Lake employee hauled it off and disposed of it all.
Yeah, one other thing I just thought of that was very interesting was basically how minimal the staff was for, these wildlife areas. I believe there was one full-time employee, like the maintenance supervisor, and then he had just a couple other employees, maybe one other full-time and then some part-time, and that was it. And I used to work for a park district, and just cleaning up the trash after a big weekend was a task for quite a few people. So it was amazing just kind of seeing how much work they have to put in to keep those areas looking nice for us. So
the other thing
I was going to say is, if you're going out to one of these areas, maybe take a bag or a bucket with you and clean up a little extra trash. It's one thing to take your own trash, but maybe take someone else's too.
Yeah. Well, and the trash thing was interesting because after we sort of got everything cleaned up and we're calling it quits, we were standing around sort of shooting the bull, and both of the Division of Wildlife employees that were there, to us it seems simple, like, oh, you don't want people to throw trash on the ground, put more trash cans out. But to hear them talk sort of counterintuitively, but a lot of times when they put more trash cans out, they ended up with more trash, because if the trash can's full, then people just think, well, I'm just going to put it next to the trash can, and then it blows all over the place. Or if there's a trash can there, people pull their truck up next to it, and it's a great, they just dump all their trash instead of the little bit of trash they made there during the day. They sit there and clean their truck out, or just things that I never would have thought of. It seems simple, put more trash cans out, but apparently it's not that simple. Or like the fishing line collectors, those receptacles that you're only supposed to put fishing line in. Apparently people stuff all kinds of other stuff in there, and then the tube's full. You can't get fishing line in there, so there's fishing line laying all over the ground, or it's just supposed to be for fishing line, but people figure, oh, somebody's going to have to come by to collect the fishing line, so I'm just going to pile my trash here. And so it almost invited more trash by having trash receptacles out versus less trash. And so it was just interesting, to hear from somebody who deals with that stuff daily, year after year. It's not as simple as you might think on the surface. So,
yeah, another interesting thing that I just thought of was this wildlife area had just had a dumping issue where a company that was spraying weed killer along the railroad tracks, I believe, was coming in and illegally taking water from the lake and was dumping excess weed killer like into the parking lot, and that then was running into the lake. And we got to kind of see the aftermath of that, and there was a huge area of dead grass, and there was trees and shrubs, pretty large tree that was dead from this dumping of weed killer.
Yeah, they're near the parking area because my understanding was they were dumping residual chemical, like flushing the lines, flushing the tanks, that sort of thing, with the water out of the lake. And then, like you said, they were siphoning water out of the lake to mix the chemical before they went out to do their work for the day, sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know. Would you figure a softball size diameter trunk on that one tree that was dead?
Yeah, I would say softball size, maybe a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a little bigger than that even.
Yeah.
But yeah, just another interesting tidbit, I guess, about that particular wildlife area. So, and the one guy from BHA said that it was a fisherman that actually turned that guy in. So that was kind of a cool, like, I don't know, vindication or something,
Yeah.
Turn the guy in. It's like, that doesn't seem right, I don't think that guy should be dumping stuff in the lake, but.
Yeah, and what else was cool was that you can find the 911 call and the police body cam footage online.
Oh,
And
from that
incident.
Okay. Yeah.
And it didn't happen all that long ago. So, and that was just kind of cool to see. You can hear the fisherman saying, like, I don't think this is right. Like, there's a company that is dumping chemicals, and the dispatcher saying, what is going on?
Yeah. So all right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Like I said, if there's one of these in your area, I'd encourage you to check it out. It was a good experience on more than one level, and check out BHA, because they were, like I said, they were the ones that sort of organized this whole thing and put it all together. So become a member. And I guess with that, Jake, we'll let you get back to your vacation, and I'm going to go eat some dinner here.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. There you have it. Like I said, just sort of a summary of the event. Hopefully it encourages you guys to check something like that out and participate in something like that. Like I said, it was a good experience. We all took something away from it as far as the experience and just the camaraderie and even just the networking of hanging out with other guys, other hunters in the area that you didn't know prior to that. So it was a really good experience. If you guys haven't seen, check out our new website, www.ohiohuntsman.com. That's sort of the new hub of Ohio Huntsman, and that's where you'll find all the news and what's going on and different articles we're writing, letting you guys know about controlled hunts or free events that the ODNR is putting on, that sort of thing. We've still got our shirts for sale. You can find that on the website. We've got our decals, our Ohio Huntsman decals, and our home. So it says home, but the O is replaced with our logo, the buck with the outline of Ohio. So those are pretty cool. We've sold a handful of those. People are really liking them. And yeah, lots of other things to check out there. So like I said, ohiohuntsman.com. Follow us on all the social. We're on Facebook. I guess not all the social. We're only on Facebook and Instagram. Ohio Huntsman on Facebook, Ohio Huntsman _podcast on Instagram. Follow us there. We're always posting interesting things, sharing stuff on Instagram stories, that sort of thing. And most importantly, share the episodes with your friends. So if you share an episode, make sure to tag us so that we know that you like the content, and we'd appreciate that. So with that, let you guys get back to your day, and hopefully you're about ready for deer season to start.